Hi, I'm Dennis with TeraFlex. Today we're going to rebuild a modular flex joint. We have two flex joints here. This is our current joint, and this is an earlier version. Just wanted to bring them both out so you could see the differences on them. They both rebuild internally exactly the same, but the older one has another option where you can press out the entire assembly and just change it out that way. One of the things that you'll find on the kit is it has a collar in it that has some little steps machined into it. So that's what those little steps are for, is for that earlier version joint. It allows us to just set that against it, gives us a good spot to index on, and we'll go. We'll just go ahead and rebuild this one, so we don't need this joint for now. We'll just get rid of it. Let me show you how to assemble this tool. Now the one collar has the ridges cut into it. We'll use that up against the housing. Kind of has a contour that's cast into it, and it fits real nice against it. We've got a piece of all thread in there. That all thread, will just run a knot on it. They give us a washer that'll go on there as well. And then this big washer is the one we'll push against. Put that in there, and that side's all together and ready to go. What we're going to try to do is push against the inside of this, so we need to relieve some pressure on that washer so we can get that snap ring out of there. We've been provided with this collar that'll do that. It has a ridge cut on it that'll go right in between that inner ball and the washer and push it down so that we can relieve that pressure. So let's just go ahead and throw a washer and a nut on there. And that's ready to tighten up. With our rebuild tool in place, all we need to do now is take some of the preload off of the bushing in there so that we can get the snap ring out. So it doesn't take a lot of pressure to get them apart. To get the new bushing in there, it's a little tougher. We pull that snap ring out, set it down, and then we'll just take the tool right out of the way. We're ready to do the rebuild. You can see the washer here that snap ring sits up against to hold the bushing into place. So we'll just tap this whole assembly out of there. Now this simplified forge housing actually only requires one snap ring, and the other side is just a one-piece housing, so it makes them pretty easy to rebuild. We'll just tap it out of there. We can see that we've got the urethane piece and then the ball. This ball is actually a chrome-plated ball, and the reason they do that is that it gives us a nice smooth surface so that we have less friction. It gives us longer bushing life. The other thing you'll notice is that there's a lot of surface area there. Just to compare it to the traditional urethane bushing, just look at the size of this surface area that we have to take the load. You look at the standard bushing, it's more of a point load almost across the surface of that center pin. It gives it a lot better life. The last piece we need to take out is the other side of that urethane bushing. Now to get it out, you can see there's just a little bit of a ridge there that we can access through the back side of it. I'm just going to grab a socket and just tap it out of there. Comes out pretty easy, really. Now the reason they've got these little castle tops on these bushings, or this urethane bushing here, is that they're a little bit different in the size of them. You can see that there's a little bit of play there. That allows the grease to pass through that bushing and into the ball to lubricate it. Well, that's pretty much all that's in the flex joint, the bushings, the chrome ball, housing. Let's take a look at our rebuild kit just to show you what comes in a kit. It's going to give you a new chrome ball, 2 new bushings, and a couple of snap rings. It's going to give you 2 snap rings and 2 washers. Now the reason for that is this kit's designed to rebuild both the old style as well as the new style. So if you've got the new style, you're going to have an extra washer and an extra snap ring. Good for you. It's a bonus. If you've got a worn out bushing in here and it's all full of grit and grime, you want to clean all that out. Wash it all out, get it nice and cleaned up so that when you reassemble it, you don't start out with a bunch of grit in there causing a lot of unnecessary wear. All right, well, we've got this cleaned up and ready to go, so let's just set that bottom bushing in there. Probably easier to put it in now before it's all greased up. We've got that seated in there pretty good. I get a lot of questions on what kind of grease should I put in these joints? What do they need to have? We usually use a good synthetic grease. There's a lot of good brands out there on the market. Schaefer's, LE, Amsoil, any of those are great greases. In fact, you could even use just a boat bearing grease. Something that really resists water is what we need to have in here. So, you can see this stuff it's stringy. Don't be afraid to put a little grease in there. I like to load them up pretty good. This stuff is sticky. It is really nasty grease when you're getting it all over your hands. But I just lube the ball up good, get a good coating on that, good coating on both surfaces of that bushing, and we're ready to reassemble it. With that bottom one already in place, you can sight down in there and you can see where the low spot is, and then we just line that bushing up with it and drop it straight in. It's really not that hard, but you just need to be aware of it. If your socket fits over there, you can use that, or even the tool that it comes with works pretty well to just tap that bushing down into place. Once we've got it in there pretty close, we're ready to put the tool back on it and we'll press it in. Assembles up the same way. Throw our nut on there. Okay, when you're pushing this back together, you could have that ball in there sideways, all crooked. So make sure you try to keep that nice and straight and lined up. That'll give you a nice straight push on it. And then the other thing is make sure you got the washer seated down inside the housing so that when you're pressing it in, the washer's actually going in the housing and not binding up on you there. Let's get out our 9/16 end wrenches and just tighten her in a little. You can watch it press in, make sure that that washer's going in there straight and it's dropping in there nicely. This little rebuild tool really makes this nice. All we need to do now is put our snap ring back in it. We'll release the pressure off the tool and we're ready to put her back in. Okay, once we've got that snap ring in there, make sure that it's really in there all the way around. You can look, and I usually like to just take a pair of pliers and just give it a little squeeze. Make sure that it's really hooked in all the way around. Now's the time to make sure that snap ring is in there and in there very tight and all the way seated, because if it ever comes loose, then obviously that bushing is going to come popping out of there, and then your rod end's loose and you got to tear it apart and put it all back together again. So just save yourself the grief now by checking it. Just make sure it's in there really good. Another little tip that I like to do is once I've got that snap ring in there and seated, is I like to take just a little dab of Loctite and just put it on the edges of that snap ring. That just makes sure that that snap ring isn't going to pop loose on me. So that's it. It's all together. We'll release the pressure off it. Okay, that's pretty much it for this rod end. I did want to go through the tool setup on the upper rod end. The joint's just exactly the same inside, just a little bit smaller. Let's just grab an upper arm here. You can see the joints are really very similar in construction. They're just a little bit smaller. We've got the same chrome ball in it, the washer, the snap ring. The other side is still forged in, so this is the newer style. So let's just set this one out of the way, and we'll put the rebuild kit onto this small joint to show you how that's set up. The kit is very similar to the other one. Piece has 3/8 all thread, gives you the same collar. This collar has a machine notch in it, only this time the washer is designed to fit right in that notch, just to kind of keep everything in place. So we stack our washer in the nut the same way. We'll put that side on the enclosed side, leave the open side for this. Now this is also a little bit different. Because it's kind of a small rod end here, we need to be able to have access to that snap ring. So we've made a step down bushing puller in here that'll slide right into the inside of that washer, just similar to the other one, but it's in 2 halves just to give us access. The other piece snaps onto the top of it. So throw our washer on there, a nut, and the puller's all set up and ready to go. Same drill. We grab our 9/16 end wrenches, flat ratchet, take the preload off of that snap ring, grab our snap ring pliers, and just release that snap ring out of there. It's a little tighter on these, so it's a little bit tougher to get them out, but not too bad. Got the pressure off it, we take it apart. Same drill as the other one, just reverse it and put it back together. So that's pretty much it on a rebuild of a rod end.